And this one is based on the comic book series with the same name. But if you're not familiar with that series, I think you can still have a ton of fun with this one, especially if you are interested in cooperative games, because this is a cooperative one. The way the game works is that you're going to be putting a bunch of these location boards in a circle in the middle of the table. And there's a bunch of these locations offered in the game, but you're only going to be playing with a small subset of them, which is going to add a ton of variety from game to game. But within each of these locations is a semicircle cut out in the side. You're going to be randomly assigning a token to that location face down, with each of the tokens having a number on it. And the goal of the game is to try and flip all those tokens up in ascending order. And if you're able to do that, then you win the game. But if you ever attempt this and get any of them out of order, then all the players automatically lose. Not only that, but you're also going to be including a random enemy in each game, and there's a bunch of different enemies offered in the game as well, and they're each going to be adding their own rules and unique loss conditions to the game, as well as some different effects that the players will have to deal with. The way that players gain more information as to which token is located at each location is by playing the appropriate sets of cards at that location, and the sets required are depicted on those individual boards. There's a few different types of cards with different numbers on them, and the different locations might require you to have certain sets of numbers or certain sets of cards, or maybe a combination of the two. But once you are able to complete that objective, then the player that was able to do that is going to be able to look at the token at that location. Players will be taking turns performing their actions in this game, and on your turn you have 3 different actions that you can choose from. You can either choose to move the spaceship, and anytime that you do that, you always have to move counterclockwise. You can move any amount, but anytime that you pass the enemy, that's actually going to be adding a damage card to your discard pile, and then it's also going to cause the enemy to move 1 space counterclockwise. But wherever you do decide to stop, you'll also be able to place any sets of cards from your hand onto that specific location. You'll then be checking if the conditions of that location have been met, and if they were, then you'll be able to look at the token at that location. The other action you can perform is to simply draw back up to your hand limit. You're going to be drawing from the shared deck, but if you do have any cards left in your hand, you can also choose to discard one of them before you do so. And you're also going to be adding a damage card to the discard pile anytime that you do perform this action, so you do want to perform it sparingly. But the final action that players can perform is to attempt to flip all the tokens in the appropriate ascending order. If they're able to do that, then they win the game, but if they get a single one incorrect, then everybody loses. So you only want to be performing this once you're absolutely sure, because you're only going to get 1 crack at it. But there are even more ways to lose the game, because if the enemy ever makes a full rotation around the board, then you also lose the game that way. And also, if a player ever has 3 damage cards in their hand at any point, then you also lose the game. And the thing about damage cards is that they never get discarded. Even if you perform the action to draw back up to your hand of cards, you can never discard the damage cards. Luckily, there are a few one-time use special actions that players can perform, and you'll be able to do this anytime that you stop the ship at this location at the bottom here. There's going to be a bunch of different tokens down there that all represent different special actions, and once you perform that action, you'll be flipping that token and then continuing on with the game, hopefully in a better position than you were before. But the game continues like this until either one of those loss conditions are met, or a player was able to flip all those tokens up in ascending order. And at that point, you either win or lose the game. And if you want to learn more about this one, I will have it linked in the description below. And of course, you can click to follow along and get a free gift added to your pledge.